In this video, I'm going to talk about some basics when it comes to MLA and documentation. Now, to start, just a reminder, you have to have at least one database source in your essay. And you want to find good sources that will contribute to understanding the meaning behind the art piece you've selected. There are different ways to document things based on whether it's in a database, a website, a book, etc. And first you have to start with your art piece before you can begin your search. So I have this one as an example. Now, you're not allowed to use additional websites outside of the database except for Google Arts and Culture, since that one is in our course. So you can't use Wikipedia or anything else like that because they might, well, Wikipedia is certainly a secondary source and other websites could be as well. And with a secondary source, it isn't written by the expert, but it was summarized for you by someone else. And we, don't know where that summary is coming from. But I will allow you to use this particular website if you're getting your image off the Google Arts and Culture. So when it comes to documentation, and this is stuff that's all going to go on your works cited page at the end of your essay, you have to start typically with the authors. Now, I've created some notes for you, which I'm going to provide for you in my courses. And we have here documentation for a website. So if you are documenting a website, you always start with the author. Depending on if you have one author, two authors, more than two authors, or no author. This first part, the author section, changes slightly based on how many authors you have in MLA. The rest of it for a website stays exactly the same. If you're missing a part, like they don't give you the publisher, then you simply skip that part and go on to the next part. So as an example, here is one author, followed by the rest of the information. When you put that information into your essay, you want to put it in your own words, and then document it with the appropriate information. For one author, it would be the author's last name. For a website, this is all you need, just the name of the author, because there are no page numbers present. But if this was a printed book or an ebook or a PDF where page numbers were on the scanned pages and I can see what page it was on in the original source, then you would have to add a page number. So with one author, it's very simple to do the documentation. With two authors, you have both authors' names in the front of the information, last name, comma, first name, the word and then first and last name for the second author. All the other information is still the same in the format. That doesn't change. When you put that information from two authors into your paper, you put it in your own words, and then you give both authors last names. If you have more than two authors, MLA doesn't make you write them all. Instead, you just put the first author's name, last name, comma, first name, and this abbreviation, ETAL, which indicates that there are more than two. And then the rest of the information still stays the same. When you do the in-text documentation, it looks like this, Smith et al. Now, some websites, like this one, they do not have authors on them, and that can happen on websites. So, like I said, if there is a part missing, right? In this case, there are no authors. So if there's a part missing, skip it and go on to the next part, which is the title of the article. So we just remove the authors portion and we start on the left with the title of the article. Now for this website, you have to look for what is the major identifying phrase or header for the website, and up here is the picture. As I scroll down, this is the biggest text that I see. It's actually the title of the painting, but this is also going to be the title of the of this web page on this website. So this is going to function as the title. So I write it here in quotes, just like in the style. Notice the period there. So I have it right here. Now, when you're doing the documentation, always make sure everything stays consistent. The quotes have to be there or it's not correct. The period must be exactly there. This website name, which is the next part, the name of the website, which Google Arts and Culture, must be written in italics, and it must be followed by a comma. So you cannot change anything, including the punctuation. Everything must stay the same. That's followed by the publisher, which in this case is Google. For a website publisher, Google obviously is recognizable, so we put that in there. But sometimes if you can't find the publisher, then you can look around on the website. If you see the copyright symbol, the C circled, and it has a company name next to that, that would be a publisher. So we've got the publisher, comma, and if, of course, there is no publisher found, you just skip it and you go on to the next part. So the publisher, comma, and then the website URL. Now, when I put this information into my essay, I want to put the content in my own words, but I don't have an author to put in here. So I still just start on the left side and work my way in. So here it starts with the title. You don't want to put the entire title though. You just want to go up to the first noun or noun phrase, because you don't want these citations to be huge. So you just start on the left, you work your way in. Okay, breezing, well, the phrase together is breezing up, right? So I think 2 words in this case is fine. Usually 2 to 3 words will do it for you, but always start on the left. Don't skip any words and move in. So you got to start exactly on the left side and work your way in. So I put the quote here inside the citation. I have breezing up. I got to end the quote, and then the period goes on the outside of the documentation. So that's how you handle a website. If you want to use this Google Arts and Culture website in your paper, that's fine. Just keep in mind, it doesn't count as your database source. You still need one of those too. Now for the database, we want to scroll down the home page of our My Courses and click on Library Resources and Services. When you're looking for the meaning behind the painting, you can look for different things. You can do a search for the name of the painting, but unless it's a huge, famous painting, you might not find analysis just on that painting. So you might want to look for the artist and see if the artist has any recognizable symbols or themes that he or she works with. By that I mean, for instance, you might have an American artist who paints lots and lots of paintings of the Old West, but none of them are really identifiable from the other. I mean, you have lots and lots of landscapes. So if you look up just one of those paintings, you might not find anything in the database. But if I look up the artist, I might read about the life of the artist, and it might tell me that this artist likes to represent or show the beauty and the rugged nature of the American West. And at that point, that's the meaning behind his work, that he likes to display the Old West in this style. Okay, so you might need to look up the artist instead of just that painting. So like I said, you can look for the painting. So if I just put breezing up like this, I want to write it in quotes. So I keep that phrase together, but I might not find that. So I also maybe want to put in the name of the artist as well with it, and then expand my search a little bit. Now, once I go through and I find a few things, I can look through and read some of these sources to see if I like them. And let's say, for instance, there's an article here, so I can read that online. And you can see that it gives you some options. I can click here, which will give me more information on that particular source. It'll bring you to another page. And from this page, it's also on the previous page too, but I just kind of want to show you everything. From this page, either at the top, there will be a link. It says click here to read the text or something like that. Sometimes it's at the top. On this page is at the bottom. We're looking for full text. So if I click on this, I can actually read that article in the database and see if there's anything in here that I want to use in analyzing my artwork. Now, the nice thing about the database is that it does documentation for you. Not all the databases do, but the majority of them do. So if you are working in a database that doesn't give you the documentation, you can email me and I will help you with that. However, when you're looking for your information, you just have to kind of keep in mind that you cannot build a citation for a database using the website format I just showed you, because they're two different things. The documentation is different depending on if you're using a website versus a book versus a database. And if you don't use the correct style for what you're working with, then your instructor won't know that you're using a database source, for instance, and then won't give you credit for it. So to do the database citation, what you want to do is you want to look for the record, which is right here on this page. And the reason I'm clicking there is because I'm searching for this toolbar. Now from this page, again, I can read the full text if I want to read the article. Here's the basic information for that source and where it came from. But if I want to document this in MLA style, you look for the toolbar, which is sometimes on the side, sometimes at the top of the page. You want to look for the option that says Cite. So when I click on that, it gives me the citation for this source in various styles. Here's APA, but I'm not doing APA today. That's for a different essay. So I'm going to scroll down and find the MLA one. I can copy paste this onto my essay, okay, onto the Works Cited page. And then I have the proper citation style, which I've already done right here as an example. So I noted you should use the database toolbar. Now, if you look at this citation versus the one up here, this one is missing the authors, of course, but it also has other things that are different. You notice here the volume, issue number, and the year. That doesn't appear in a website citation. That tells me that you're using a publication. This here is the name of the database, so I know what database you were in. So you can't document everything exactly the same because different styles of sources have their own documentation requirements. And so if I look at this, I know you're using a website. But if I see this, I know that's a database source. And if I can't tell because you use the wrong style, I can't give you credit. Now, once you've got your database citation already done for you, again, you want to use information from that database source in your essay, in your future essay, so you can put that content in your own words. Please remember, paraphrasing is always preferred. Okay, 90% of the time, never ever quote anything if you stick it in your paper unless you absolutely have to. And by that I mean, for instance, it's a famous quote said by someone, you really should not change their words. Or if the section that you're trying to use has a lot of data that would be impossible to rephrase. So it's lots of percentages and things like that. In that case, yes, you're going to have to quote. But in any other instance, you should always put content in your own words. The more you direct quote, the less I can assess your work. Because I can't read somebody else's work and give you an A for it. But if you put it in your own words, it shows me that not only did you do research, but you understood what you read and could explain it to me. So paraphrasing in your own words is preferred, okay, for any essay you write. Now that should then be followed by the citation when you put that in your essay. So the citations will be the same as we just did up here. For one author, if there's one author for the database source, two authors for the database source, more than two authors, or if there is no author, the documentation will be the same, whether you're using a website or a database source. In addition to doing your documentation like this, you can also do it like this. Here, I'm just writing the sentence. So I wrote, according to Cynthia Grenier, and then I paraphrase her words into my own words. If you put the author's name like this inside the sentence where you are using it, you don't have to document it at the end with this because you already did it. The point is you gave credit. And if you put her name directly in the sentence, then you've given her credit. So that's perfectly fine. So you can use whichever style works. Sometimes you have to use one style over the other just to make sure it's clear where your information is coming from. But a lot of times it helps to have other options. Okay? So you're going to be using this information when you start writing your essay, which is not actually going to be until we're 3 weeks into the unit. But this is just going to keep you informed and kind of ready you for that next step of the process.